Personality is obviously not a skill per se. It's not a skill at all. It's a way of looking at the world, a way of looking at ourselves and other people, knowing or understanding how personality works helps you engage with others successfully. It allows us develop our people skills, our social skills. So personality is important. Knowing the different aspects of personality is important for you to get on with others, for you to get the best out of others, get the best from yourself. Know where your strengths are, maybe know where you're not so strong, and how to perhaps work on that. It's not something you can develop as such, although it does change over time to a degree. At the same time, it's pretty stable. So by the time you're like early 20s, maybe late teens, early 20s, your most human beings are pretty much established in their personality, their approach to the world, how they deal with stuff. Now, to talk about personality and what we mean by that, first of all, from the psychometric perspective, I'm not going to get too analytical here or too, engrossed in the detail, but psychometrics is the science of individual differences. It allows us explore what it means to be humans. It's one approach, right? Psychometricians do this. They use uh, scientifically validated measures to examine people's well-being. If you've ever taken a well-being test or a test for anxiety or depression or something like that, psychometrics are used. If you or your child or anyone else has ever taken a test for ADHD at your local physician or whatever, you would have engaged with a psychometric test. If you've ever been tested in school for creativity or intelligence and so forth, psychometric tests were used. So we attempt to capture what it means to be human, what it means to be who we are, using the scientific method. Now, it's not perfect, right? Um, through all analysis, we, through all definition, we automatically omit important data. So it's not the end all and be all. It's not personality assessments and psychometrics don't tell you who you are as such. They're like a photograph. This is how I explain it to clients. They're like a photograph of oneself at a particular moment in time, under particular conditions. And life experience has a tendency to shift our personality to some degree. And as we get older, we may adopt different approaches to the world. We learn about ourselves, we learn about others, and maybe um, those more challenging life events happen to shift our orientation one way or the other. So, psychometrics is a science of individual differences. Personality is considered an individual difference, and there are many different ways we can explore personality. I'm taking a look today at the Big Five, the Ocean model, uh, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Um, Welcome to Peak Performer. I'm Larry McGuire. I'm a work and organizational psychologist, and you're in the middle, or we're in the middle, of 30 days of mental skills. We're looking at 9 core mental skills, and we're spending a few days on each one. We're on the fourth of 9, and that's people skills, how to develop the skills within ourselves to work successfully with other people. And that's why personality, or understanding personality, is important. When we know ourselves a little bit better, when we understand our own behavior and we understand the behavior of other people, perhaps we're better equipped to make decisions about how to move and how to go and how to get the best from others and ourselves, right? We're on day 13 and we're talking about personality. Personality, and I want to reinforce this again, it's not, it doesn't tell you who you are. It tells you or gives you a snapshot in time of your particular approach to the world. And in examining personality, we use adjectives, we use language to describe ourselves and describe other people. And over the course of many, many decades, 100 plus years, in fact, 125 years or more, 150 years even, from the time of Francis Galton, the late 19th century. He was the single most significant figure in the development of psychometrics, in the science of individual differences. And he was looking at intelligence, and he was looking at personality, and it was very raw back then when they were looking at people and behavior, and had some really interesting but crazy ideas about what makes human beings who we are, what intelligence is, and so forth. But he was onto something, and like all ideas, it has developed and grown and so forth. And we're at the point today where it's considered largely in the world of the human sciences and psychology that this psychometric approach to personality is pretty accurate, right? So it can predict certain outcomes. Where you are on this continuum of personality traits can determine, or not determine, but um, predict where you're going to be or what you're going to achieve and so forth. I'm going to get into that now. So we're talking about the big five. And the big five is often referred to with the acronym OCEAN or CANOE. And that stands for openness to experience, being O, C, conscientiousness, E, extraversion, A, agreeableness, and N for neuroticism, or otherwise referred to as emotionality. Um, and lots and lots of studies have looked at life outcomes and how they relate to these big five personality traits. It should be also said that there are many different researchers that have looked at personality through this lens, this trait approach lens, right? Costa and McRae are two very important figures. Goldberg is another important figure in personality research. And they have mainly worked on the big five, or it's been subsequently developed into the big seven. And there are other aspects, but that's what we're sticking with today, the big five. So they've looked at these traits of personality, and they have observed that they can predict certain life outcomes. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's take openness to experience, first of all. Openness to experience refers to your and my willingness to embrace change. That really kind of captures it pretty well. Creativity and a willingness to explore, an interest, a curiosity, a natural curiosity with oneself and the world. I want to try this thing. I'm not bothered when I'm faced with this dramatic change. It feels like it's an exciting opportunity. Okay, so the entrepreneurial types, if you want to take it from say business and management, right? They would largely be quite open to new experiences. Okay, in sport, the ones with the greatest flair, with the greatest ability to do something out of the ordinary and demonstrate a degree of brilliance that not many do. These people would be largely open to new experiences. When the shit hits the fan, these are the people who are likely, most of the time, you could say, to come up with the solutions, right? Or at least to explore opportunities to find an answer. This facet or this trait of personality, it's a broad trait. I'm not going to get into the constituent traits of these because we don't have time today. But if you do want to find out more, I should have said at the top, there's a link down below this video. Click on it. You can find out more about psychometrics and personality assessment, and even book a session with me. I'll provide you with an assessment, and we'll have a chat about that and so forth. I'll give you an analysis of your results and so on. The link is below this video. So openness to experience has been found to predict your particular political view. Where are you on the spectrum of left and right when it comes to politics, right? Has shown it can predict your occupational interests, where you'll end up, what type of work you'll end up doing. It's also related to higher number of years in education. And so openness to experience, those who are high on this level would be willing to immerse themselves in education and learn new things. They want to know the world. They want to understand the world. It's associated with the investigative, the artistic, occupational work type of work. And interestingly enough, it's also been related to um, behaviors, adverse behaviors, where people have become addicted to various substances like alcohol and drugs and so forth, substance abuse. Those low on openness to experience are more closed. They'd rather just do the work that they're given and get on with it rather than embrace, the world and all it has to offer. Okay, there's more on that, but that's in summary. Conscientious people, you probably understand this already. Conscientious people love to be, they're diligent, and they are high on detail. So this works really well for people in analytical roles, quite detailed and highly organized, right? They're conscientious about doing the best job that they possibly can. And you can see why, if you're running a business, for example, that you would want conscientious people. But conscientious people are sometimes found on the opposite end to high openness. So those who are highly conscientious are often found to be low on openness. All right, interesting. So watch out for that when you're hiring people. This is why psychometrics is really important in the workplace, but also in sport and everywhere else. If you're conscientious, you're more likely to have successful relationships, research has shown. You're also likely to do well in education and achieve a high paying job. Or yeah, that about covers it. Agreeableness is next on the list. Agreeable people don't like to rock the boat, those high on agreeableness. They always say yes. They're a yes man or a yes woman. They always want to appease the boss. Now, that might seem like a great attribute, but maybe it's not so great, because if you're looking to develop and grow and to be creative and so forth in your work, in your business, or even with a sporting team or any team, any collection of people, you don't want a room full of agreeable people. You need dissenting voices. You need people to be brave enough to say, hang on a second, I think we're going down the wrong road here. I think we need to reevaluate. What about this? What about that? What about the other? So highly agreeable people are an advantage in certain respects, but you don't want a room full of agreeable people. Those high in agreeableness are more trusting of others. They tend to be quite altruistic and display what we refer to as pro-social behaviors. And so they stick to the rules. They don't break the lights. They do their tax returns on time. They don't want to get into trouble. And that's fine. But a society full of agreeable people, well, you're not going to get it for a start. But it's generally not a good idea, because dissenting voices are required in order to shake things up from time to time. And if you're running a business, if you are managing a group or leading a group in a high stakes environment, you need people to challenge authority. If you don't have those who are willing to challenge authority, authority runs riot. So watch out for that. And there's any amount of evidence to show you why that's the case. Okay, so let's go back to extraversion. I skipped that. Extraversion, well, y'all know what extraversion is, right? It refers to those who love to be out there in front of the crowd, in the crowd, commanding the room. Generally speaking, those high on extraversion are charismatic. They are engaging. They love to be with people. They're energized by people and so forth. Those low on extraversion, more towards the introverted, a tendency towards introversion, prefer their own company. That's not to say those low on extroversion don't engage with others or get things done, or are not good team leaders, for example. They just might well be, but they prefer their own company. Those high on extroversion like to be in the crowd, in the mix of it, shaking it up, commanding the room. And it's interesting to note that those high on extroversion are more likely to find themselves in leadership roles, running businesses, running departments, in sales and marketing roles and so forth, and CEOs and what have you, captains on teams, flamboyant players on the pitch. Extroversion is like all of these traits, are neither positive nor negative. They can both be a hindrance and a help, an advantage and a disadvantage. So when we talk about high extroversion or low extroversion, high conscientiousness, low conscientiousness, or whatever, we're not uh, talking about good and bad. So don't conflate good and bad or high and low with good and bad. That's not the case here. So it's a matter of understanding how these traits operate, how you fit, how they fit with you, and how you engage with the world. Knowing yourself is really knowing how your own behavior is key. Extroversion. Finishing up with extroversion. Some research has shown that there's an overlap between high extroverts and the dark traits of personality, sadism, narcissism, psychopathy, Machiavellianism, and that there's an overlap there. So high extroversion, watch out. They could be a psychopath, right? A lot of CEOs are high on psychopathy. You need to know this, right? Um, Lots of bosses are not very pleasant. There are good ones out there. I'm sure there are. But it helps us to know this, right? So flamboyant, charismatic, extroverted people are not necessarily the right ones to fill a leadership role. Beware, you have been warned. Neuroticism, then the final one of the big five. Again, there's lots more to these traits to talk about, but finishing up with neuroticism, it's a clinical term. So we'll call it emotionality, perhaps is a better way to explain it. So emotionality is the degree to which explains the degree to which you react on impulse to difficult situations. So if you know somebody who flies off the handle, who has very little self-control, well, it's likely they're high on neuroticism. If you know somebody who's quick to anger and aggression, they're high on neuroticism. It occasionally predicts psychopathology. Those high on neuroticism may feel anxiety more so than most people, are perhaps prone towards depression more so than most people. And you're not stuck with this, I should say. If this is you, if you're prone to lose the rag quickly, if you feel anxiety a lot of the time, if you're prone to depression, that's not necessarily you're not necessarily stuck with that. There are things you can do about it. And hopefully over the course of these 30 days, you'll pick up some tips and new ways to approach the world that will help you with this, right? High neuroticism is not necessarily a good thing. It's very hard to find situations where high neuroticism is a good thing, unless you're being attacked. If you're prone to aggression and you're being attacked on the street, maybe your neuroticism will help you survive. But apart from that, I can't really think of a time and a place where high neuroticism would be an advantage. High neuroticism is associated with diminishing lifespan and can contribute to disease. So that's worth understanding. All told, it's not great for success. So you need to find a way to manage anxiety, tendency towards depression, and so forth. And like I said, there are things you can do about that. So that's the Ocean model: openness to experience, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. And they are the broad traits, the 5 broad traits of the big 5, the Ocean model. Understanding others, understanding yourself is an important skill to develop, and without it, we aren't very well equipped to deal with the challenges of life and work and sport and so forth. If you want to learn more about psychometrics, about measuring personality, understanding what it is, and so on, check out the link below. You can find out more about assessment and so on. This is 30 days of mental skills, and we're on day 13. We're finishing up today on people skills. Watch back the previous sessions to find out what we've been covering to date. And you can find all of these sessions on Substack, on peak.humanperformance.ie, on Substack. You can also find it on YouTube on the playlist. You can find it below. And everywhere else, you'll find Peak Performer on LinkedIn and what have you. And Medium as well, and a few other places. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed that and took something from it. I'll see you tomorrow for day 14, and we'll be talking about, let's bring this up here, thinking skills, right? These are the thinking skills. This is self-talk. It's how we communicate with ourselves, how we process the world and the events we experience. So tune in for that. Okay, see you tomorrow. All the best.